This is Love Your Villain, where we step into the arena and peel back the mask. The place we stop pretending we're okay and start getting curious about the parts we've been taught to hide. The angry, needy, jealous, anxious, avoidant, addicted, manipulative parts. The part that lashes out or shuts down, pushes love away, isn't broken. It's your story trying to speak. The villain you've been trying to silence is actually the part of you that needs the most love. Here, we don't shame the villain, we listen to it, get raw, intimate, and honest, while practicing being perfectly imperfect. I'm your host, Ila Casselman, and welcome to Love Your Villain. My guest today is Bebhinn Pigeon. Bebhinn is an expressive arts therapist from Ireland living in Vancouver. She's interested in the nervous system and the role it plays in well-being, specializing in holistic practices using techniques including sound baths, yoga movement, breath work, and cold water exposure, as well as the expressive arts. She is currently completing her master's degree in expressive art at a university in Switzerland. So today we're going to talk about how people don't have space for holding emotion, mostly because they don't have the capacity to hold space themselves, let alone anybody else. I'm here with my dear friend, Bebhinn Pigeon. Hello. This is all about loving our villain. I'm going to start off with the wonderful question of, do you think you have a villain?
I would say that my villain is the people pleaser.
How does the people pleaser in you show up as a villain to somebody else?
I would say the people pleaser shows up to somebody else as someone who benefits them. So I'm overstepping my own boundaries in order to go the extra mile for somebody or to facilitate something for them. And for me, it looks like invalidating my own experience or my own needs.
Do you think that because of that, people take advantage of you? Do you think other people can show up as a villain because you're abandoning yourself to make them happy?
Yeah, I can see how it would activate a side in people that accepts willingly things that are on offer, which are overstepping my own boundaries in order to help or please them. And yeah, I definitely have been taken advantage of, maybe not super consciously a lot of the time, but I'm reliable. The people pleaser is a very reliable villain to have. Yeah.
And then what happens when you overextend yourself to please other people? What happens for you personally when you're not listening to your needing in order to make yourself feel loved and liked by other people?
You're basically giving from an empty cup, that whole concept of filling your own cup first. When you may have people-pleasing tendencies, more often than not means you are giving from an empty cup because there really isn't a lot left to give back to yourself. It means that I'm not giving half as much to myself as I am to other people.
And how does that show up? Do you get sick? Is there exhaustion? What makes you stop and take time to fill your cup?
Over the years, it has definitely shown up in exhaustion in some way, or burnout, or perhaps some sort of physical illness. And those things have definitely shone a light on where I could be improving my boundaries or filling my cup or giving myself from my own cup. These days, I would be less of a people pleaser, but it is definitely been something that's inherent in me and has shown up in some sort of exhaustion, whether it's energetically or just physical illness, for sure.
You think it is about the people pleaser? Because I'm a people pleaser too, but I've learned, I think, over the last few years to not be like that anymore. And it really was, you want to make friends, you want people to like you, so you go out of your way to make that happen. But I always felt that afterwards, I would basically just lay on the couch and only want to watch TV and eat garbage food. Let's talk about the emotional game that we all play with each other. What happens for you if you're people pleasing and you're giving a lot of energy to a particular person? How does the communication go if you're feeling done, but you're still committed to an experience or an event or a friendship, a relationship of any kind, and you're expressing, this is depleting me, this isn't filling my cup, it's emptying it? How have you experienced holding space for other people's emotions, but they haven't held space for yours when you've needed them?
What does that look like?
Yeah.
I have found, and I do find, that people are not well versed in how to really hold space. in my experience, we can always hold space better or listen more and all of those things. I would say that shows up in people either emotionally invalidating your experience that you're trying to share, if it's kind of relationship issue that you're having with a partner or a parent or something, and you're finding it really difficult. And rather than someone sitting and holding that space and sitting in that discomfort with you, oftentimes people will say something like, oh, it'll get better, or, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean it, or, oh, it's going to be okay. You got this. Yeah. Rather than just sitting in the discomfort with you. And that may simply be listening. It could be that really sucks, or I'm sorry that's happening for you right now. It can even be a simple question of, is there anything I can do for you right now in this moment? It's not really a conscious thing for most people. It is really the inability to sit in that discomfort, because the majority of us, and myself included in my lifetime, it is hard to sit in discomfort. Emotional discomfort and emotional pain is sometimes a lot more difficult to sit with than even physical pain.
Absolutely. I find that a lot of people also just want to make it better really fast. If you start, as an example, crying in front of somebody because you're having a hard time, they're like, there, here's your tissues. What can I do? Are you okay? Need to go somewhere else? There's a lot of kind of sometimes some jarring responses from that, when you just need to be witnessed in the crying.
Absolutely. That word there is key. We're all wanting to be seen. We're all wanting to be witnessed in our own life experience, whatever that is, whether it is emotional pain, discomfort, or even happiness, like a win in life, a promotion, a marriage, a baby, or whatever it is. We really want to be witnessed and seen for who we are. And like anything, the wins are often way easier to celebrate than it is to sit with the lows.
100%. I want to give an example of this time. It was the best holding space experience that I personally have ever had. I was having a breakup and we were down at the beach, my friend, and I was heartbroken and feeling off, and I probably shouldn't have been around a bunch of people during this time. I should have just been my introverted self and healing and stuff, but I decided to get out there. Anyway, we went for a swim and I was just not feeling it. I think I'm going to go home. So we get back to our spot, and by the time we had got there, there was a bunch of other girls that had arrived and setting up and being their gorgeous selves. I just sit down and I'm like, hey, to my friend, I think I'm just going to go. She was, oh, are you okay? Do you want me to come with you? No, I think I just need to go home. And I just sat down and she was like, are you sure you're okay? And I said, no, not really. And then I started crying. And she was like, oh, do you want to go somewhere and talk? Because I didn't really know the girls that we were with. And it was uncomfortable for her. She didn't want my emotions to be in the group. And I was like, no, it's okay. Just let me cry. These girls that I didn't know for a bar of soap, there was 4 of them. And they merged and sat around me in a circle and just held the space while I cried. No one asked what's wrong. No one wanted to hug me. It was amazing because it actually gave my friend permission to just sit there and experience the holding space. I remember walking away from that experience just going, whoa. By the time I'd cried, I had the communication skill back to talk about what was going on. They were all just so beautiful about it.
That is such a gorgeous example of being able to be held, and by multiple people, the energetics in that too. And it's such a learning moment for everyone, including your friend who didn't know what to do at first. Being able to witness others do it in such a loving and helpful way.
Yeah, it was amazing. How you have experienced the negative side when you have been needing someone to hold space for you and they don't, or they can't, in terms of their uncomfortability, projecting it onto you or deflecting the onus onto you instead of taking responsibility for, just say if it's a dispute of any kind where people should be taking responsibility for their part in the play. How has that played out for you?
It really depends on the other person. I have experienced it where I have been able to say what I need and what isn't working for me in the moment, and the other person actually receiving that and switching gears, and being able to take that on and be there and be more of a space holder. And I have experienced on the other side it being deflected, the discomfort of being maybe seen as someone who isn't holding space well is now their main focus in what's going on rather than the actual initial, okay, wow, you're going through something. It then turns around and it becomes about them because of not being able to firstly hold space for you and what you're going through, but then also being called out for that or being asked to do it differently is also seen as being just called out as not being a good space holder. Maybe they might portray it or perceive it as not being a good friend, which is not necessarily what's being said. But when you're trying to have those conversations about what your needs are and how maybe your needs aren't being met and how they could be met more, people can take those very personally. And it's not a personal thing, not about the other person. It really is about you and what you're needing and you asking, you being able to ask for those needs, which is huge because I think that's something everybody can struggle with, being able to ask for what they need in a clear way. It just depends on the other person. And it is all huge learning because as you navigate these scenarios with friend or family member or whoever it is, even strangers or people that you don't know very well, I think the onus is on all of us to be able to navigate these situations and do better. But we'll really only have control over what we can do. Learning from that, and if it appears that someone is taking it really personally, then okay, how can I switch gears into something that is more proactive and effective in this certain moment because it's really not working. And it doesn't always go like that. We all take it personally. We all get defensive and upset and stomp away.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
true. I think that it's very common in disagreements or in arguments if somebody is asking for a need to be met and if the other person doesn't have emotional availability to be able to do that, it can be really jarring, especially if you're somebody who is always giving that level of energy to people when they need it. Oh, I need to be a good friend to this person, so I need to be there for them. If it's not reciprocated under your times of destitute and need and struggle, then that's not actually really a friendship or a relationship of any kind. I don't really see it that way. It's like a one-way street.
It's misaligned, that's for sure. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the ability to become more aligned in terms of if people are open to the communication of being able to step up more into the role of listening and being able to be there. My view on it is that the emotional capacity that everybody has is different. And it is on ourselves, not on anyone else, to be able to expand that in friendships, in partnerships, in family, being able to recognize where someone's emotional capacity is at and recognizing whether there is room for it to expand, and if so, what does that look like? Because if you have more emotional capacity than somebody else, you're like able to recognize that faster, quicker, or more than the other person. Whether we want to take that on or not, because that's always a choice too, we do end up becoming teachers, being able to navigate and help with more expansion. But it's our choice. We don't have to do anything. And it does come down to what are you valuing in this friendship, in this relationship, is something that is worth putting that effort into and that time and recognition of what you are receiving from the friendship. Because we're not all fully matched in all ways. I think that's how we can learn from others too. I have friends who are so much more assertive and confident and those things than I am, which I learn from seeing them in situations stand up for themselves, really have autonomy over themselves, which is something that I value and I'm working on having more of in my life. I like to think that sometimes it can be in that offering, being able to see them and have them help in that way, then my maybe emotional awareness and intelligence, if I have more of it, I can help reciprocate in that way. Sometimes it's not worth it at all. Just being able to recognize where the values are at. And if there is a give and take, and if not, then we have to look after ourselves and make sure that if our needs are not being met here, then we're meeting them for ourselves and just putting that to the side.
I'm going to talk about friendship for a minute because I think that romantic relationships are spoken about till the cows come home. But what's really been singing true for me of late, especially over the last couple of years, and my desire for deep connected relationships in general, but particularly friendship, and how I think that I have a certain relationship going on with a friend, and then we'll have a disagreement about something and it's over. It's almost a replication of a romantic relationship in terms of whether or not in the moment of the first dispute, or disagreement or confrontation, if both of you are like, this is too much, I'm out of here, bye. Which I'm finding fascinating, but it's also freaking exhausting, because as long as everything is easy between everybody and smooth sailing and there's no glitches, no one can work through anything. Everyone just wants to cut and run. They don't understand that relationships are a two-way street, and it's normal to have disagreements, and that's how we grow and become better humans, to learn how to communicate and reciprocate the needs and then repair from whatever damage has been caused, and learning forgiveness and things like that. Have you noticed that with your female friends or just friendships in general?
Yeah, everyone is overstimulated. People are at their capacity. People are burnt out. There's so many outside contributing factors that is happening that has people looking for the easiest in all aspects of life, but certainly in friendships. Because when we're at our max, when we're at capacity, you can't take on one more thing.
Yeah.
People not realizing they're burnt out or at their capacity or just at their top level of taking things on. When you don't know, it's a cut and run, of course. Take that on rather than seeing it just as a natural occurrence in human connection. And of course, communicating, talking things through, maybe you give some space, whatever it is that, each person needs, or we're all different. But yeah, there is a rising level of people at capacity and not being able to take anything else on, but not being able to maybe recognize how much capacity they are. And so we're all missing out on maybe more authentic, deep connection because it's staying more at surface level.
Yeah, I see that in my practice all the time. And people don't recognize, part of the questioning that I have now is, what level of stress are you at out of 10? 0 is no stress, 10's the worst stress you've ever had in your whole life. And most people will be like, oh, 5. But then put my hands on their body. I'm like, you're not even breathing.
You're a 9.
Like, you're going to stop breathing.
Yeah.
Those muscles aren't working.
Yeah.
Like, your rib cage doesn't expand.
And imagine that's how deep in this that we're all at. That is now seen as the norm. There's nothing normal about that whatsoever.
No.
There's nothing normal about working 60 to 80 hours a week. That is not okay. It's not what we're on earth to do. Work ourselves into the ground.
Yeah, it's so true. People's stress response
response
can go from 0 to 100 so fast. I've definitely been somebody like that. But all of a sudden, I'm the Incredible Hulk. And I cut and run. I've been a cut and runner. And it's painful. It's destroyed friendships because of it. Oh, you're not going to give me what I need right now. Bye. And it's harsh. Brutal, actually.
There's signifiers to what's going on. Definitely, I notice for myself, if I stub my toe, if I drop something, my regular regulated nervous system response would be, oh, shoot, get on with it. But if I'm at the end of my rope, I haven't been sleeping well, and at capacity, I've been holding space, I'm working a lot, and then something like that, then I have a meltdown. That is when it's like a toddler.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to eat, but you need the basics. Like going back to the basics of what do we actually need here, because it isn't about the stubbed toe. It's about the smashing amalgam, or there's more at play. And we are in such a disposable place in society at this point in time. Everything is disposable.
Everything. Yeah. Look at dating, the app. What a time waster. You're constantly swiping and disposing.
Less desensitized people in a huge way.
Yeah.
As has media in general. The news, when we were growing up, you would hear about some world news, of course, but it would be from the television and it would be at the 6 o'clock news or something. So you're maybe seeing it once a day if you happen to be sitting in front of a TV or listening to a radio. But other than that, you don't really know what's going on in the world. It's not in your face all of the time, but we all now have our phones, we all have computers, we all have things that we have access to 24/7 that is giving us information all of the time, and we are just desensitized. It's like you see another famine, you see another war, you see another dead body laying in the street somewhere in the world, and it's not shocking anymore.
I don't know how many people that I talk to in my working hours where I will tell them, like, I don't listen to the news, or we don't read the newspaper, there's no radio. The moment that I hear the news, I'm turning it off, I'm walking away, and I haven't listened to the news for about 15 years. And they're like, what? and I can feel them stressing out. They're like, if I don't know what's going on, I'm stressed out. To me, that's just insane. You get more stressed if you don't know what's going on. And I'm sure there's a gazillion, bajillion people out there who feel exactly the same way. They must know everything that's going on out there. Otherwise, what?
I'm the same. I don't listen to the news. Yeah, what is you feel misinformed? You don't feel
Connected?
I don't know. Is the fear.
Yeah.
Tapping into the fear-based society, living in fear. Yeah.
I don't want to know if there's a rapist down the end of my street. I don't know that. That's on me if I get attacked by that person, but I don't feel like I want to know who's doing those evil things in my sphere. I don't want that in my sphere.
It's overwhelming. And maybe part of the humanness is to be fascinated with a darker thing and to focus on that. Even with sharing things, people tend to feed off of negativity more. It's an easier thing to feed off of.
How do we become a species where really loving is the hardest thing to do in the whole wide world? Loving ourselves, the hardest thing to do in the whole wide world. Holding space for ourselves and having emotional capacity for ourselves is the hardest thing to do in the whole wide world. I understand that previous generations was very much more about survival, and that the different laws of the time, like men could only hold deeds to land, and so therefore they needed to control the women so that the land would get passed down to their children. So gross, but that's how it was. The abundance of food that we have now.
Everything is at our fingertips.
Yeah.
The likes of Amazon and different online shopping where you can basically purchase something and it can show up at your door sometimes the day of, but certainly the next day. We are living at a time when we've had more things materialistically than anyone has ever before had in the time of humans. And yet we are living in a time of the most disconnected.
Yeah. Even though we've got phones and computers, all the technology to connect us. I know somebody who's a professor. He has a research team, and his team's done a lot of research to do with ChatGPT and the interactions that humans have with ChatGPT. They did a study on Gen Z and AI, and 85% of the people in this study in Gen Z would rather have a relationship with AI. 85%. I guess if AI was a doll, human looking like Westworld, if that was our world, if Westworld was our world, have you seen Westworld?
I've seen an episode or two. Yeah, no, I do get the premise. Yeah.
That's how we'll extinct ourselves. Our generation really used computers, computer games as a babysitter. Friends who would just sit their kids in front of the computer. It still happens, still happening. Kids would stay up until 7 in the morning as young kids and teenagers till 7 in the morning playing whatever game they were playing, and then all their friends are in on it.
Yeah. The computer games has never really, I did have a Game Boy, but yeah, this online community of being able to play against someone living in a different country. I think when it first came about, it was a really cool, fascinating thing to be able to connect with someone from a different country on the other side of the world. And now that seems to be the sole connection for a lot of people, like the only thing that is keeping them connected. That is scary.
Very scary. Through COVID, the disconnection. It's the emotional disconnection.
Yeah.
It's not the physical.
No. COVID normalized isolation is what happened. People working from home, people living in their apartments and having to stay in them. It has normalized being isolated, which is also scary. We were not ever meant to be by ourselves. We were meant to live in societies and communities with people, rear your children, with the neighbors, with the fellow community members. It was a group effort. It was always a group effort. And it has definitely become less a group effort.
Yeah, sad. What do you see would be the solution for people to begin to hold space for themselves? Because that's really where it has to start.
Yeah.
Expressive arts therapy.
Expressive arts therapy would be a great starting point. Being able to get back in touch with your own emotions and feelings and being able to sit with them and then express them in some ways. Being able to verbally express things is one skill, and it is a difficult one. I think it's one of the more difficult ones. But being able to express yourself non-verbally, whatever that looks like, being able to move through the emotions, starting off with yourself, being able to sit with them, move through them, that in itself is a practice. And once you become more and more practiced at that, it does make you more available to other people's emotions and being able to sit with them and be there as they move through them or be a witness to it. Starting in schools, I don't know. I think we need to be able to help from an early age.
At the gym this morning, one of the women was talking about how she works with protective child services, and I was overhearing her and this other woman having a chat. The other woman asked, what's the main group that you would see abuse children? And the woman who works for protective child services said, there is no specific group. Everyone and anyone can be a shitty parent. It's not race or color or gender or
it's human.
It's human.
Yeah.
They were having this discussion about how most of the time, until the children go to school, these parents have absolutely no awareness that this is even happening, that they're even abusing their children. And then they go to school and the school starts to see it. And then the government steps in. And then the parents are like, why does the government care about how I'm parenting? Why do they have anything to do with it? And why does the school have anything to do with it? I guess there's still this ownership. They're my children, which to some degree, yes, but that doesn't give you the right to abuse your kid. And then I piped up in this conversation. I was like, hey, do you think that these people think that they're abusing their children? And she was like, no, they have absolutely no idea that they're carrying on the generational trauma. They don't have the self-awareness, any awareness whatsoever. They just are doing what their parents did. After having this conversation and overhearing this conversation this morning, it really settled my why am I doing this? And it's purely for the children. Like, my disclosure of my own personal experiences is to bring awareness that this stuff is still happening. But most of all, I think Love Your Villain is about the emotional abuse. And most likely, everybody in the whole wide world has been emotionally abused in some way. I'm not like throwing anyone under the bus. This isn't really about shaming parents. This is really about bringing awareness to...
Yeah, we don't know.
Exactly.
So how do we learn? How do we bring the knowing to people who need
to hear it, to stop it? We can get furious at the villains who do the big, hardcore, evil, villainous things like rape, murder, and violence. By the time they're old enough to be doing that stuff, it's too late. We need to get out ahead of it when these kids are babies. Try to somehow protect their kids when they're babies. We think that it's an individual or a isolated. I can't see how that's going to help children in the long run if we keep thinking that way. It has to be a societal change. Yeah. We have to change. We have to stop
responsible for ourselves and each
other.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that a lot of this comes from crying as a baby, and parents not having the emotional maturity to handle their baby crying.
Right.
And thinking that I'm not a good mom or I'm not a good parent. My baby doesn't like me. My baby is a naughty or a bad baby because they're not doing what you want them to do, which is just to be quiet and lay there and look cute and smile, which, again, unrealistic. We need to stop shaming parents in public when their children cry. That child's just communicating, because crying was our first language ever. And just be like, oh, I wonder what's going on with that child, not shut that kid up.
I don't have a baby myself. I haven't had one, but behaviors of babies, newborns, they are trying to communicate their needs. They need to be changed. They need to be fed. They need to be burped. And that is their way of communicating. Yes. Being through the tears, through the cries, through the different sounds. The different sounds that babies make do correlate to what they need. A lot of parents do become in tune with that this cry means this, that cry means that.
Learning a different language.
But if you're at capacity already when your baby comes along, all the crying, I can imagine, sounds the same. And that's where things can start to go awry.
Yes. And it comes back to whether or not the parent, before they had the children or the child, were able to hold emotional space for themselves. Because if they have zero capacity to do that, they're going to have a very difficult time holding space for their very needy, extremely dependent child.